Since the beginning of the year, we wanted to build ourselves the ultimate mini PC. And before the year is up, that's exactly what we want to do. Now, the mini PC that we're going to be building is for our studio, and it needs to serve two purposes. Number one, it has to help us bring you more content around what you can actually do with an APU. And number two, it's got to look awesome, because we just love it when things look awesome. Now, because of a recent upgrade in our studio, particularly around our test bench, we've managed to find a CPU that we've got spare. And that spare CPU has given us the opportunity to build the ultimate mini PC that we've been after for a long time. Now, obviously, a mini PC needs a mini case, and we have decided to go for this one. This is an InWin B1. It's not the smallest ITX case there are out there, but it actually does meet our looking awesome factor. It has a glass panel, lots of ventilation around, and it comes with a built-in 200-watt gold rated power supply. We have taken a look at this on the channel before when we did a review of it, and we'll link that at the end if you want to check it out. Now, of course, a mini case will need a mini motherboard, and we've decided to go for this one. Now, this is actually a pretty old motherboard now, and we've had it for a couple of years. It's an Asus Prime A320IK. It's a mini ITX board that is ram-packed full of features, even though the chipset is pretty old now. But as we know, the best thing about AM4 motherboards is the future compatibility. With the right BIOS, you can actually get this motherboard working with one of the original A series APUs all the way up to the latest Ryzen 7 5800X 3D. Now, we have already updated the motherboard on this BIOS, so it's going to suit our processor perfectly. And if you want to know more about how to do that, drop us a comment in below and I'm sure we can put a video together for you. Which then brings us to our CPU. For the CPU, we are obviously going for an AMD Ryzen APU, and this is one of their latest. This is the AMD Ryzen 5 5600G. It's a 6-core, 12-thread processor with a built-in Radeon Vega 7 graphics. Now, these are not that expensive anymore, and it does work in our board perfectly. And I'll tell you now, you can actually game on them. We'll take a look at that later on. When it comes to the CPU cooler, we've decided to go for this one. This, again, is a cooler that we've had for a while, and it is a pretty low-profile cooler, which is needed for this case. It has a little bit of an additional flair because it is an RGB cooler, and it is the Master Air G200P from Cooler Master. Again, they're not that expensive, but it's going to be perfect for this build. For memory, we've decided to go with something from XPG. Now, these are the XPG D60G RGB sticks. It's 2 sticks of 8GB DDR4 3600 megahertz. Now, they look absolutely gorgeous, and I've had them for a while and really wanted to use them on something like this, so they're going in the system. When it comes to storage, we've decided to go for something to match our memory. This is an XPG Spectrix S40G. It's an M.2 NVMe, and it's a 512 gigabytes, so it's going to be more than enough for the little test system that we're going to build. So now that we've seen the parts that we're going to be using in this, they're all pretty compatible with each other and they work flawlessly. We're going to put this build together. If you are an avid follower of the channel, you would have seen how to build in this case before. Again, we'll link the video at the end so you can see the full build process. But for now, let's get this system built. And here it is, our little awesome mini gaming PC. Now these cases do have some kind of issue with thermals, particularly if you're going to be overclocking the CPU, but we're not going to be doing that. So we should actually just be fine. They do replacement panels for here, so you can get a mesh panel if you run into issues like that. But I prefer the tempered glass look because it just looks cool. But can we game on it, I hear you say? Well, in actual fact, yes we can. After building this little PC, we decided to do a little bit of games testing to make sure everything was working fine. In the 2013 version of Tomb Raider, at 1080p high, we could get an average of around 60 frames per second. Now the game looked awesome, it played really smooth, and the system didn't actually generate that much temperature while doing it. But little systems like this are designed more for your esports types of games. So we loaded up one of the most popular games on Steam, Counter-Strike Global Offensive. At 1080p high, we could average around 100 frames per second while in a bot match. Now obviously in a normal match you would see a little bit more of a drop in this, but it's actually more than playable, much more than a lot of those cheap gaming PCs out there. Now that we know it can game, we're going to be using this going forward to bring you more content around what an APU can actually produce. But when it does come to a system like this, how much of a budget do you really need? Now considering some of the parts in this are actually pretty hard to get hold of now, but you can get more up-to-date modern versions of it, we managed to build this for around £465. Now depending on what you perceive as a budget, that could be high or low, but remember this, ITX components do have a little bit more of a premium on them. Comparing it up to some of the other versions that people are building out there, which actually come in slightly larger cases than this, and are also APU builds, we didn't do too bad. As a bit of a breakdown, the CPU cost us around £120, they're actually reasonably cheap right now. The motherboard originally cost us around £100, although you can get the B450 versions now for about that, which will also work perfect with this setup. If you were to opt for the XPG D60G RAM, you're going to look around paying around £70, although we do know that we can get that much cheaper nowadays if we go for a different brand, because DDR4 is actually pretty cheap now. The SSD again could be found cheaper if you go for a different brand, but obviously we wanted the RGB version to match the memory, so we ended up paying around £50 for this 500GB. You are looking at around 80 to 100 if you upgrade that to a 1TB, so you could potentially do that by lowering the memory that you use, increasing the actual M.2 drive that you use, so you could have more space and just the same amount of RAM. It just won't look the same. The InWin B1 case actually cost us around £80, so that's not too bad, and you can pick up the Cooler Master G200P coolers for around £45. Now we don't think that's bad at all for the type of system that you're getting here and because it looks absolutely amazing. But let us know what you think in the comments. Do you like this kind of system? Would you build something similar? We're now going to go away and have a little bit of a play with this machine. We're going to get it set up, we're going to install some more games and see how well it goes. We hope you enjoy watching this video as much as we did making it, but until the next time, we'll catch you in the next one.